Greetings, Israel, Judah, Brother DFG, Elder DFG. Hey guys, I'm not going to be very long with this message, but I thought I would take a moment and review our Tanakh lesson study from last night. I'm not going to go verse by verse, but I'm going to give an overview because there were things that were shared with us on last night that I really believe that could be beneficial to my brothers and sisters. And secondly, there's a commandment, a directive out there to all of the elders. And I'm talking about those of you who are assigned by Yahuah to teach and instruct his people, that there is a consequence, and accountability on each and every one of us, or each and every one of you, if you fail to do so. But that to be said, before I get into that, I just want to share a couple other things. And, I mentioned just a couple of days ago about the several incidents where, mothers of Zion, daughters of Zion, were being attacked, by heathens. And it is a fact, and it's not a new thing, but it seems to be on the uptick, for lack of a better word. And so I bring that out to say that when we start to assess these things as Israel, one of the things I want to remind my brothers and sisters to, let's be very careful that we don't start to attack inside of Israel just because we're identifying things that are happening outside of Israel. And what I mean by that is far too often, we'll say, okay, here the heathens are attacking our women. But then someone among us will say, yeah, well, the black man is doing it too. Well, here's what I'll say to anyone who thinks like that. And are you going to say the rest of this, or are you just going to stop right there? Because there was a situation that happened just last week where a black Israelite woman stabbed her 29-year-old boyfriend to death, and then took her 9-year-old daughter and 8-month-old child and threw them out in the highway, and the 8-month-old child was struck and killed. And then she took her Porsche Cayenne, a Cheyenne that she was driving, and ran it at 100 miles an hour into a tree and took her own life. And none of these things are stories that, justify any wickedness one way or the other. But I have to emphasize to my brothers and sisters, as an elder, that when we start to look at behavior, we make a critical mistake when we start putting identity, when we start to place identity as gender-centric as to why things are happening inside of Yashar'el, while at the same time omitting that we're not keeping the Torah, omitting that most of our brothers and sisters have no idea what abomination looks like before the Creator. And even to make things even worse, we are told by many within Israel that we have no responsibility to judge each other for these indecent, wicked behaviors. And so I'm going to do my part and call it out. And old saying, you call a spade a spade. Are there evil going on inside of Israel towards our women? You better believe it. But my dear sisters, remember, it goes on with your brothers too. Or Israelite men attacking Israelite women, you better believe it. But these same Israelite men are attacking each other as well too. And vice versa. So there's enough blame to go around, is what your brother is trying to say, what the elder is saying. There's enough blame to go around. But at what point are we going to start taking the approach of, okay, what's driving this? Because the best we could do is just point fingers at one another. That, I'm going to tell you, that's the lowest level of intelligence known to man. Mikey did it. Let's just blame Mikey. He does everything wrong. That's not solving the problem, is what I'm saying, brothers and sisters. If we're looking to eliminate these things, then we have to go towards what's driving these things, identify what those things are, and then talk in terms of what are remedies. How to minimize these things, if not to eliminate them altogether. And if you want to talk intelligently, That's how you do it. Otherwise, just poking and pointing the finger at one another doesn't do anybody any good. Doesn't do anything for Israel. All it does is cause the heathens to sit on the sidelines and say, see, I told you them niggas ain't no good. Can't trust the women and other men. Now, if that works for you, then fine, go on about your business. You don't need to be here. But if you have a problem with that, then this is why this message is here. Because I have a big problem with it. And the problem that I have with it is that Yahuah says there's no one judging these situations. So that being said, again, I don't disagree at all. Let me be crystal clear that Israelite men, are guilty of some of the most atrocious behavior towards Israelite women. But if you're going to call that out, and you should, then you be sure to call out the same atrocious behaviors that Israelite women are doing towards Israelite men, because it does exist. That old saying, it's time to clean out the closet. Dealing with the elephant in the room. Because in this political correct society where you can't say anything to the woman anymore, it's causing our women to get harmed. And in some instances, irreparable. Because nobody wants to talk about what's actually really driving these behaviors. It's just easier just to point the fingers at one another. So let's not be so. What does Solomon say? What does Solomon say? Proverbs chapter 1. He said, let me read it. Let's go there real fast. This is what Solomon says here. Check this out. And then I'm going to do the overview, and then I'm going to be done. But look what Solomon says, brothers and sisters. He goes here. This is Proverbs, chapter 1. He said, wisdom cries out. She utters her voice in the street. She cries in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gate. In the city she utters her words, saying, how long will you simple ones love simplicity? See, that's the point that I'm making. When we simplify things down to the point, or we make things so simple, or we think in terms of simplicity, where we just start to say it's male against female, young against old, then we're just being, that is the road of least resistance. And because it's the road of least resistance, it's the road of least impact. If you don't want to make a difference, then boil things down or conclude things that way. Just pointing fingers. Look at all the men no good. Look at all the women no good. Okay, now what? We're going to stop right there? You're happy? You feel better about yourself? Or do you actually want to do something about it? Because otherwise, what are we talking about here? I know my brothers and sisters get it. But for those out there who are still caught up in, gender wars within inside of Israel, I'm going to just ask you to time out for a moment, please, before there are none of us left. Now let's shift back over to real quick little overview. We studied in the book of Ezekiel. And here's some of the things we read, brothers and sisters. Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 1. Let me read it to you. And again, I'm going to go right through it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time into this. Again, if you were with us last night, then you got an hour's worth of information with precepts to tie it down. Okay? And again, if I have your email address, you got the precept to go with this message. So again, I'm not going to every precept. Just want to get in, get out. Okay? The book of Ezekiel, chapter 20. It came to pass in the 7th day, in the 5th year, in the 10th month, that certain of the elders of Israel came to inquire of Yahuah and sat before me. And this is Ezekiel saying that the elders got together and they came before the prophet to inquire. This is what they inquired. And then came the word of Yahuah unto me, saying, Son of Adam, speak unto the elders of Israel, and say unto them, thus says Yahuah, are you come to inquire of me? As I live, says Yahuah, I will not be inquired of by you. How interesting is that? He's telling Ezekiel, you tell those elders who came to hear from me or to inquire of me. He said, you tell them, no, I don't want to hear nothing y'all have to say. You tell them, I said, don't come to me with nothing. Now you might think in terms of, whoa, what's going on with that, brother DFG, elder? Well, here's what's going on with it. Verse 3. He says, because as I live, says Yahuah, I will not be inquired by you. Will you judge them? He said, I will not be inquired by you. Will you judge them, son of Adam? Will you judge them? And he's saying, why are they inquiring of me, but you're not judging them, prophet? He said, why aren't you judging them? He goes on to say, check this out, brothers and sisters. He said, then he goes on to say, look at this. He said, will you judge them, son of Adam? Will you judge them? Cause them to know the abominations of their fathers. Now, how many times have we told that we're not to judge anybody? Judge not that you be not judged. That's a lie. Well, it's written over there in the New Lying Book. But that's not what the word says here. Again, let me read it out to you again. It says, as Yahuah, I will not be inquired by you. Will you judge them, son of Adam? Will you judge them? This is his question. Cause them to know the abominations of their fathers. And say unto them, thus says Yahuah, in the day when I chose Yashar'el and lifted up my hand to the seed of the house of Jacob and made myself known unto them in the land of Egypt, when I lifted up my hand unto them, saying, I am Yahuah. In that day I lifted up my hand unto them to bring them forth out of the land of Egypt into the land I had aspired for them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all the lands. He said, have you reviewed those things with them? Have you talked to them about the abominations that their forefathers did when I took them out of Egypt? Then he goes on, verse 7. Then he said, and cast away every man the abomination of his eyes, and defile not yourselves with the idols of Egypt. He said, for I am Yahuah. But they rebelled against me, and they would not listen unto me. And they did not, every man cast, and they didn't cast away the abominations before their eyes. Neither did they forsake the idols of Egypt. And when I said, I will pour out my fury upon them to accomplish my anger against them in the midst of Egypt, but I wrought for my name's sake that it should not be polluted before the heathen, from among whom they were in the sight. And I made myself known to them, bringing them forth out of the land of Egypt. Now, if you go over and look at Leviticus 18, it tells us what was going on in Egypt. Idolatry, homosexuality, aborting babies, nakedness, people walking around half-dressed. Oh, yeah. And Yah called those things abominations. And he said to the elders, this is what he's saying to Ezekiel, have you told the elders of Yashar'el that why are they over here inquiring me and they haven't judged these behaviors amongst the people? Why are they looking the other way, not saying anything? And now they want to know why their situation is so horrible at this time. Deplorable. He said, here's why. Here's why, because there is no judgment. I said, don't learn the ways of the heathen. And what are they doing? Just the opposite. Rebelling. The heathen says you can do this, they do it. Heathen say that's legal, they do it. I say don't do it, it goes against, the culture of my people. And they tell me, shoot, get away. You're bothering me. But y'all say they don't understand who they're saying that to. So I need y'all to remind them. One of the things I've been doing on this channel is reminding us that Yah said you can say whatever you want to say in terms of plug off, get away, whatever. But hey, that old saying, you just peeing in the wind, calling it rain. Yah said, I ain't going nowhere But I'm going to deal with y'all, though. I'm talking about all of those who want to do what they want to do versus what Yah says for us not to do. Look at verse 10. It says, wherefore I will go forth out of the land of Egypt, that I brought them into the wilderness, and I gave them the statutes and showed them my judgment, which if a man should do, he should live. Yah said, if you do my judgment, I'll bless you. He said, I brought them over there and said, here, if you want to have the land blessed and you want to have prosperity, you want to have good health, you want to have wealth, all these things, you want to have peace and tranquility, do these things. Do these things. And people might say, what thing? The things that are written in this Torah. You do those things, then the consequence of doing those things are blessings. But the heathens told us, oh, the Torah is done away, but you don't have to do any of those things. But Yah say, if you do what the heathens tell you to do, instead of you getting all my blessings, you're going to get all of my curses. Deuteronomy 28 talks about it, brothers and sisters, okay? But again, giving you the quick version, all right? He goes on to say here, verse 12, moreover, I also gave them my Shabbat, to be a sign between me and them, that they might know that I am Yahuah, and that sanctifies them. Sanctify is another way of separating us, or purifying, or keeping us, clean. Keeping us away from abominable things, in essence. Giving you time to stop, reflect, think, so that you will contemplate, the consequences and the dangers of maybe poor decisions. So that we don't have situations like I mentioned earlier in this message. Solution-oriented versus being problematic. Let's go, verse 13. Then the house of Israel rebelled against me in the wilderness, and they walked not in my statutes, and they despised my judgments, which if a man shall do, even live in them, in my Shabbat, they greatly polluted. Then I said, I will pour out my fury upon them in the wilderness to consume them. So if the Torah was not able to be kept, then why did Yahuah give it to us? And that would make him unjust. And he is a Elohim of justice and judgment. So he would have never given us a Torah that we were not capable of keeping. Especially in the land where we were in charge. We weren't in captivity any longer. We're amongst ourselves, for ourselves. So we didn't have any justification other than rebellion. We just didn't want to do it. It had nothing to do with our inability to do it. We just chose not to. That's what the word is saying. But let's go on. He says what? Verse 14. But I was angry for my name's sake, that it should not be polluted before the heathen, in the sight of whom I brought you out from amongst. Yet also I lifted up my hand to them in the wilderness, that I would not bring them into the land which I had given them, land flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all the lands. Yah said, I had the best set out for us. He said, brothers and sisters, Yah said, I want the best for y'all. He wants the best for us. The question comes back that we have to look at in terms of, are we willing to do what is necessary to have the best? And the elders were not doing it. They were not talking to the people about the things that were causing them to have the least. Not only when they're in the wilderness, but he's talking to Ezekiel. This is long after the wilderness, what I'm reading right now. But Yah doesn't change. His laws doesn't change. Just as today, as it was yesterday. And as today, the elders are not saying anything for the most part. I am. There are a few others who are. They have channels. But most of our elders over there telling you about polluting yourself in idolatry with their religious saviors and their religious redeemers, including old sweet Jesus. That's where our folk at. Looking for the black one versus the white one, who used to be black in the beginning. But he's never been anything for Yashar'el other than a thorn in our sides. Truly a cross to bear. And I don't know how any of us could not say that, much as our people have been following Jesus, and look at our condition as of this day. Nothing but a cross to bear. A thorn in our flesh. But again, It's rebelling against Yahuah. Because he said we didn't need anybody but him. But let's continue on here. Verse 15. Yet I also lifted my hand in the wilderness that I would bring them into the land which I had given them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the best of all the lands. But they despised my judgments and then walked not in my statutes, but they polluted my Shabbat. What do you mean by polluting his Shabbat? Doing whatever we want to do on Shabbat, disregarding it. Just so you understand what he means by polluting it. For their heart went after their own idols. In other words, they wanted to go shopping. They had a football game to go to. Concert. Barbecue. Birthday party. Whatever. Can't nothing stop me from doing those things, even Yahuah. He need to understand, that his I don't love him that much. I don't love him enough to tell the world no. Not when I want to do something. That's called rebellion, just so we know what rebellion actually looks like. At least before Yahuah. Verse 17. Nevertheless, they spared not them by destruction. Nevertheless, my eye spared them from destroying them. Neither did I make an end of them in the wilderness. He got rid of everybody that was over 20 years old. But he didn't get rid of all of our people because we wouldn't be here. Praise Yahuah. Except for Joshua and Caleb. Everybody else, God ended their lives for that rebellionist behavior, as he's doing now. We die younger than everybody else, the Israelites, male and female. We're no sicker than everybody else. We're more broke than anybody else. We're more selfish than anybody else. We are most intergender, hating one another more than anybody else. What ethnic groups hate their men as much as our sisters hate the brethren? And what ethnic group hate their women as much as our men hate our women? What other group can top us in despising one another? I'm listening. Our way too. Now I think we already know that answer. As I said earlier, we're quick to poop on each other. But when it comes down to the heathens, we want to forgive them. We need to love them. But when you talk about loving Yashar'el, I don't know about all that. Who she thinks she is, who he think he is. Well, according to Yah, the apple of his eye. So you might want to reconsider that as you go around spilling hatred on your brothers and on your sisters. Because I don't remember reading anywhere he told any brother that you could shit on the daughters of Zion. Excuse my language, but it ain't in here. But many of these wicked demon Israelite men take it upon themselves to do it. And then when they get called out, somehow or another, the elders or the elder who will do what he's called to do is a simp. Only a simple-minded idiot could say something so asinine. So keep on with your simple, simplistic self. Because you can't do any better. You can't think strategically. So what you want to do is just isolate folk based off agenda and then say that, none of them any good. Boy, do the simple love simplicity. Solomon got it right. But see, for that 1/10 of you, my brothers, you're on the right path. We don't throw the baby out with the bath water. Are there wicked men in Israel? Absolutely. Are there wicked women in Israel? Absolutely. But why waste all our time on them? Let's call their wickedness out, tell them y'all going to destroy their wicked behinds, and let the rest of us come together and stay focused on solutions. Let's continue on. Verse 18, but I said unto the children in the wilderness, walk you not in the statutes of your fathers. Just because your mom and daddy believed it or did it don't mean we have to do it. Neither observe their judgments, nor defile yourself with their idols. In other words, if your mom and daddy chasing the bag, chasing money, chasing cars, chasing houses, chasing women, chasing men, say, yeah, just because they did that, you don't have to do it. Matter of fact, he's telling us don't do it. Because it's going to end bad for you just like it ended bad for them. The blind leads the blind, right? We all know that. He goes on in verse 20. He said, hallow my Shabbat. In other words, keep it. And it shall be a sign between me and you, that you may know that I am Yahuah. He said, notwithstanding the children rebelled against me, and they walked not in my statutes, neither guarded my judgment to do them, which if a man should do, he shall live in them. So he's saying, I will bless you, brothers and sisters. Yah said he will bless us if we just obey his Torah and get this Christian mentality that we can't do it out of our heads. That's the lie they told. They got so vicious with that lie, they told us it's done away with. It's been fulfilled. All kind of foolish lies. Yet the Torah states clearly by everyone who ever said anything about this Torah that the Torah lasts forever. As long as there be sun and moon, day and night, there will be a Torah. Yah's Torah, to be precise. But look what it says. Let's go on here. He said, but yet they polluted the Shabbat. Then I said, I will pour out my fury, which means fierce anger, upon them, to accomplish my anger against them in the wilderness. Nevertheless, I withdrew my hand, so I didn't destroy them all, for my name's sake, that it should not be polluted in the sight of the heathens, in whose sight I brought them forth. Because see, the heathen like to say, look at them, those wicked N-words. They love to kill each other. Look at them. Look at them. They kill each other like poop going through a goose. They're still saying it. And y'all knew they would say it. That's why I say, look, I need to have at least a small remnant, a small group of you all who have some sense in your head. Let this gray hair mean something, please. Other than just gray. Can you at least go back and share your life experiences with the others, your wins, your losses, so that they would know not to repeat the losses and focus on the wins? Especially when your winning comes in obeying Yah's laws, statutes, and commandments. Like some of us are winning because we do. And we don't measure winning on how much money we have. We look at things holistically. We look at everything. Health, wisdom, love, patience, tolerance, strength, fierceness, fighting, resisting, standing, challenging, warring. Whatever it takes to stay on top. So it's not any kind of single, it's not materialistic or any other one-mindedness target that we have. We don't value ourselves by one, what we would call that, metric. So we're not supposed to, well, I got a lot of money, so look at me, ain't I great? No, it just means you have a lot of money, that's it. But maybe you have no integrity, no character, no self-respect, no love for your brethren, no love for Yahuah. So for all that money you have, ain't going to do you a bit of good in terms of where your soul going to end up at. But that could be in anything else too, not just money. It could be in houses, cars, men, women, it doesn't matter. Children, parents. So we're supposed to have a holistic approach to things, brothers and sisters. Strengthening in all the things. If you want to say, well, brother, what are those other things that, can you identify them? Yeah. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 28, read from verse 1 to 14, and you'll see a clear identification of what those other blessings look like. All those things that we should be focusing on and measuring those things in terms of, are we a success or not? Are we blessed or not? Verse 22, he said, nevertheless, I withdrew my hand and wrought my name for my name's sake, that it should not be polluted in the sight of the heathen, in whose sight I brought them forth. And that's why Yah is saying, stop airing out dirty laundry out in front of these heathens. I don't need no man. I want a zaddy. I'm going my own way. I don't need no wicked black woman. And the whole world is sitting there looking at us like this. Damn. They serious? And guess what? Unfortunately, damn serious we are. To our own destruction. So I guess you just want to kill yourself out then, brother, who don't need a woman. I guess when your urge come to, that's the natural urge, I guess you're going to the other men then. Am I right about it? And so I guess you're going to kill off your seed because last I checked, you need a woman to carry your seed. But in all of your wisdom, you haven't figured that out. That's why he said a simple love simplicity. Because only a simple-minded man would make a blanket statement like that. But they're, how do you say it? What did Solomon say? That the simple love simplicity. Stupid is as stupid does. Stupid is as stupid says. Stupid acts as stupid behaves. Verse 23, he said, I lifted up my hand also in the wilderness that I would scatter them among the heathen and disperse them throughout the countries as we are, scattered all over this flat earth because of our wickedness, our rebellions against Yah. And because they had not executed my judgments, just if you're wondering how this happened, but despised my judgments and had polluted my Shabbat in their eyes, and their eyes were after their fathers' idols. So, we end up worshiping the same thing our parents worship. They love, religion, we love in religion. They love Yahushua or Jesus or Yahuah, whatever name, we're doing the same thing. They claiming that he was their savior and redeemer, although they were not saved, and they damn sure not redeemed. Look at the conditions. And we're doing the exact same thing. And calling out and professing to be wise. How is that wisdom? So I'm going to figure out how to be successful by following individuals who intentionally self-sabotage. Intentionally self-sabotage. Of course, you see it's not working for your parents, but you're doing it too. And somehow you figure that that's going to be the answer to your problems. Or you just reject those who are doing what's right because you follow me, you're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You're just going to blame everybody. My daddy ain't no good, so I guess your daddy ain't no good either. Well, if you think like that, I'm glad I'm not your daddy. You sound simple-minded to me. Male or female, whoever you are. If that's your ideology, you sound like a fool. By the grace of Yah, he said he's going to keep some of us here just to make sure some of us can make it. Maybe that doesn't apply to you, but it does apply for those of us who can make it and who are still making it, who are still here, still striving, still working hard, still trusting Yah, still spilling the blessings. Because we're not measuring our blessings like you measure yours. You think all the money in the world is going to make you happy, and all it's going to do is make you worse of what you already are. Truth be told. But you don't know that. Haven't even considered it. That's why most of them drug addicts and alcoholics and pedophiles and human traffickers and whatever they do. More money, more access. More access. If you're a liar broke, you're going to be a even bigger liar with wealth. If you're a whore broke, you're going to be a bigger whore with wealth. So that's the way that works. If you don't clean up your heart, it don't matter what you have. And your heart is not going to get clean because you say it's clean. Your heart gets clean by Yah's word. It's the measurement for which one heart is weighed. That's why Jeremiah said in 17, he said, the heart of a man is definitely wicked. Who can know it? He said, but Yah judges what? The man's heart by what? His actions, her actions, their behavior, their fruit. And the fruit means how do other people benefit from interacting with you? Not just you. You plant a garden with one watermelon seed, and that's all you planted. You better be ready for a long, harsh winter. Especially if you got other mouths to feed. No, your fruit should be a blessing to all that are around you, who are willing to hear you, to partake with you. how you say, to come together with you, to purpose with you, under Yah's promises, through obeying his Torah. That's what it's saying. Stay with me here. Let's go on a little bit further. Again, all of these I have precepts for, brothers and sisters, but again, we've already done this already, so I'm just giving you an overview, all right? Again, if I have your email, then you have those precepts already. If you want these precepts, then, again, that's a decision you have to make. By now, you should figure out how to get them. So, not trying to push you into something you don't want to do. But the lesson is still the lesson here. Let's go on. Verse 24, because they have not executed my judgment, but have despised my statutes, and they polluted the Shabbat. And now their eyes are following the ways of their fathers who are idolaters. Wherefore I gave them also statutes that were not good, and judgment whereby they should not live. In other words, I left them to the heathen. So you love the heathen, now you can follow the ways of the heathen. Even though Jeremiah told us, Jeremiah 10, 1 through 4, said, well, learn not the ways of the heathen. For their ways are what? Vain. Let's read that right quick. I'll give you a couple of precepts. He says, look, Jeremiah chapter 10. He says, hear the word of Yahuah speaks unto you, O house of Yashar'el, that's us. Thus says Yahuah, learn not the ways of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of the heavens, for the heathens are dismayed at them. For their customs of the people are vanity. For one cuts down a tree out of the forest, and the works of the hands of a workman, and with an axe, and they deck it with silver and gold, and they fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. It is as upright as a palm tree, but speak not. It's talking about a Christmas tree. It's talking about, the heathen celebration of Christmas. And many of our Israelite brothers and sisters, that's why, yes, I'm going to give them over to do that. It's an abomination to them, but I'm going to let them do it anyway. Why? Because they don't want the truth, is what he's saying. They love the heathen's way. They don't want to obey Yah's Torah. They don't want the Torah. They don't want to keep his Shabbat, which simply means to be able to bless you. He goes on to say this, verse 26. He said, and I polluted them in their own gifts, that in their own gifts. So all that materialism that they thought was going to bless them, all these people who got all this material things and thinking that's blessing. For all of you who think if you had material things, you will be blessed, trust me, brothers and sisters, according to the word of Yah, no, you won't be. Many of you are going to have to sell your soul to get them things. And all selling your soul is not being some, taking some devil cult initiation. No, some of selling your soul is that those things mean so much to you, you can't even sleep at night trying to figure out ways how to keep it or how to pay it off or how to keep somebody from stealing it from you. Now think on that for a moment. Verse 25. Verse 26, and I polluted them in their own gifts, and that they caused to pass through the fire that opens the womb, talking about the children, that I might make them desolate, to the end that they might know that I am Yahuah. And now, our people, when they don't want to be burdened, they put these little clinics all around our neighborhoods and say, come on in here. There's a better life for you. But you got to destroy that one first, though, because we'd like to get them stem cells and them eyeballs and some other vital organs that you hold as your jewelry that no one else can produce but y'all. That melanin, that's worth almost $4,000 or $5,000 a gram. Come on in here. We'll give you a few dollars. We'll make sure that, we keep up with you. We'll give you some counseling. You'll be all right. And okay. Therefore, son of Adam, speak to the house of Yashar'el, and say unto them, thus says Yahuah, yet your fathers have blasphemed me, and that they have committed a transgression against me. But when I brought them into the land for which I lifted up my hand to give it to them, they saw every high hill and all thick trees, and they offered there their sacrifices. Back to Jeremiah chapter 10 and 1. Verse 4, back to that old, Christmas tree, Christmas celebration, Christmas holidays, and all those other feast days that's tied in with those days. He said, and their sacrifices, and there they presented the the provocation of their offerings. And there they also made sweet smells and poured out all of their drink offerings, talking about their Christmas pies and the pumpkin pies and the sweet potato pies and the chocolate cakes and all the alcohol and the eggnog and all those things we do for that sacrifice of that deity that supposedly was born on that day. Never realizing that that deity was here thousands of years before the deity that they celebrate on that day, with all of the same identification markers. Born on the 25th, died, was resurrected from the grave. Mother was a virgin. Daddy was a king or a god. And he became the son of God with the big sun around the back of his head, representing sun worshiping. You know that light that's behind his head? It looks like, a moon or a sun. Exactly what he is. Sun worshiping. But here again, he brought it up. Verse 29. Then I said, what? And then I said unto them, what is this high place where you go? And the name thereof is called Bamat, unto this day. Wherefore say unto the house of Yashar'el, thus says Yahuah, you are polluted after the manner of your fathers. He's like, are you going to be polluted? Are you going to do the same pollutions your father did? So you're still going to stay in these synagogues. You're still going to stay in these churches. You're still going to be a part of these camps. You're still going to attend these mosques. Although it's proven to you that those who did those things are accursed people, y'all still going to follow behind them? This is what he's saying to the elders, by the way. Remember, this is Ezekiel talking to the elders who came to inquire of Yahuah. And this is what he's saying to them. Y'all haven't judged these things. Y'all haven't judged anybody, but y'all in it thinking that y'all can inquire of me. God said, no, you can't. Again, go back and read Proverbs 28 and 9. We'll get there in a moment. Hold on. Watch this, brothers and sisters. He said, wherefore say unto the house of Yashar'el, mean us, thus says Yahuah, are you polluted after the manner of your fathers, and you commit your whoredoms after their abominations? What whoredoms some of y'all might ask? When you're serving any other Elohim other than Yahuah. If you have any other Savior, any other Messiah, any other Redeemer, Yahuah says you are a whoremonger. So y'all thought that had to do with fleshly stuff. No, it's spiritual. That's what he says again. After the abomination of your fathers. Or the whoredom. Go, read 30. Look, this 30 again, right, brothers? Look at this. Wherefore says say unto the house of Yashar'el, Israel, thus says Yahuah, are you polluted after the manner of your fathers, and commit you whoredoms after their abominations? When you go to offer your gifts, when you make your sons pass through the fire, you pollute yourself with all of your idols, even unto this day. And I shall inquire of you, O house of Yashar'el. As I live, says Yahuah, I will not be inquired of you. He said, I'm going to inquire of you, but you ain't going to inquire of me. That's what he said. He said, no, you ain't going to tell me nothing. I'm going to tell y'all something. He said, you guys are over there in whoredoms, idolatry, and you think that you can come before me and that I actually am listening to you. He like, man, how naive can y'all be? And to back this up with a priest, look at this. Go back over to Proverbs. Just look at this, brothers and sisters. 28 and 9. This is what Yah says, that he said, this ain't your, don't take my word for it. Take this for it. He says this, what? Proverbs 28 and 9. He that turns away his ear from hearing the Torah, even his prayer shall be an abomination. Yah said if we refuse to study his Torah, obey his Torah, our prayers are considered to him an abomination. In other words, whoredom. In other words, he's saying, you can't even inquire of me if you disregard the Torah. See, that's why these other books are important to us. The books of our ancestors. I'm talking about Ezekiel, Jeremiah, the rest. Because they tell us what happened when we were in the wilderness which is the Torah books, right? The 5 books of Moses. And then they tell us what happened when we came out of the wilderness and how we ended up in the situation that we're in right now today. That none of the elders, even today, well, not none, but most of your elders today would rather preach prosperity to you, woman power to you, man power to you, anything to you other than keeping Yah's Torah. There's no condemnation. Just believe in Jesus. Just believe in Paul and Peter, Pan. Same man. Figment of one's imagination. The lies they tell over there. Mixed with a little truth. But let's not stop there. Excuse me, brothers and sisters. He said, well, when you offer your gifts, you make your sons pass through the fire. You pollute yourself with your idols, even unto this day. And shall I be inquired of you, O house of Yashar'el? He said, please. That's a question mark right there. And as I live, says Yahuah, I will not be inquired of by you. Yah said, I'm not hearing your prayers. Then he continues on, verse 30. And that which comes into your mind shall not be at all, that you shall say, we will be as the heathen, as the families of the countries to serve wood and stone. Y'all said, never dawns on you that I'm not going to accept you for following their religious practices, their customs. The man who they say was hung on a tree for their sins, or the man they say died on the cross for their sins, wood. Or the one, who, Allah, the stone, walking around in Mecca, around the whatever cobblestone, whatever kind of stone that is. Y'all said, no. You can do those things, but don't you dare think I'm hearing your prayers. Look at verse 33 says, as I live, says Yahuah, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm will my fury be poured out, will I rule over you. In other words, he said, will I judge you. That's the word. When he said rule over me, he said, with fury I'm going to judge you. But for those abominable behaviors, brothers and sisters. And he's talking to Israel. He ain't talking about them heathens. He's not talking about them Muslims, talking about the Arabs, the Moabites, the Hamites, the Cushites. He ain't talking about them. The Amorites. He's not talking about them. He's talking about us. He don't care what they worship. They're already heathens. He said, let them destroy themselves. He said, I'm talking about y'all, us, Israel, Yashar'el, men, women, and children. He said, I'm talking about you guys. This was written for you guys. Look what he says here, verse 34. And I will bring out my people, and I will gather you out of the countries wherein you were scattered with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm, and my fury will be poured out. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face. Like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness in the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, Yahuah says. And I will cause you to pass under my rod, and I will bring you into a bond of the covenant. So I'm going to bring you back to me after I finish separating 9/10 of y'all. After I pull my wrath on them, then I'm going to bring the rest of y'all on back to me, those of y'all who are already with me. He said, that's going to be an easy sell. You're already here. That's why we're here. Helping those who are the 110. To stay focused, to stay obedient, to have their knowledge increased, their understanding increased, so their blessings can be assured, secured in our blessings. Let's go on here. It says what? Verse 36. He says, like I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness in the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, says Yahuah. And I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. And I will purge out from among you the rebels, and them that transgress against me. And Yah is doing that purging now. He's purging them now. That's why he took us out of Christianity, out of Islam, out of Hinduism and Buddhism. He's purging. Those who haven't come out because Yah's not purging them. But for those of us who have come out, it's a purging happening. Not the purge that these heathens are talking about, because that one's coming too. This is Yah's purging before that purging. So if you're here and you're understanding where I am and you're partaking and fellowshipping the way we are aligning ourselves with Yah's Torah and with one another, then you're part of the purge. But the righteous purge, not the wicked one that the rest of those who are not like-minded are going to be facing. His fury, his wrath, his fire. Whatever. You're reading along with me, I'm sure by now. At least I hope you are. Line upon line, precept upon precept. Let's go on here. He says what? Then verse, picking back up, verse 38. And I will purge out from among the rebels. I will purge among you the rebels. He would say he's going to get rid of all those rebels, all those rebellious people around us. And them that transgress against me, I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Yashar'el. And you shall know that I am Yahuah. And as for you, O house of Yashar'el, thus says Yahuah, go you and serve you everyone his idols, talking about those who are in rebellion. And hereunto also, if you will not hearken unto me. That's what he's saying. If you ain't going to listen to me, go serve your idols. Stay over there in Christianity. Stay over there in, these non-religious camps who are still practicing the same laws, rules, and the book of the heathens, the New Testament. Say, go stay over there. But as for you, O house of Yashar'el, says Yahuah, thus says Yahuah, go you and serve everyone his idols, and thereafter also. In other words, continue on. He said, if you will not listen unto me, but pollute my holy name no more with your gifts and with your idols. He said, you're not going to listen to me, but you're not going to pollute my name with your idols and your gifts and all of those other things. But he goes on to say this, verse 40. Hallelujah. Check this out, brothers and sisters. Look what he says. Check out this, verse 40. And I want my brothers and sisters to listen real carefully to this. All of you who are telling Israel that we have to keep these feast days, I want y'all to listen up. All of you, listen up. If you haven't heard anything else I've said, and I hope you have, but I want you to hear this. Look at this, Ezekiel 20 and verse 40. For in my holy mountain, in the mountain in the height of Yashar'el, says Yahuah, there shall all of the house of Israel and all of them that are in the land serve me. And there I will accept them, and I will require your offerings and the first fruit of your obligations with all your holy things. I will accept you and your sweet Savior when I bring you out from the people and gather you out of the countries wherein you have been scattered. Now, have we all been collected back before Yahuah? Are we still scattered all over the four corners of the earth? The answer is yes, we are. Yahuah saying, this is what he's saying, but when I bring you back from the lands where you were scattered, that's what he just said. I'll read it again, verse 41. I will accept your sweet Savior when I bring you out from the people and gather you out of the countries wherein you have been scattered, and I will be sanctified in you before the heathens. And you will know that I am Yahuah, and I will bring you into the land of Yashar'el, into the country for which I have lifted up my hand to give it to you and to your fathers. And there you shall remember your ways and all your doings wherein you have been defiled, and you shall loathe yourself in your own sight for all the evils that you have committed. He's saying that when he brings us back together, that's when he's going to be able, that's when our sacrifices, that's when all those feast days, all those things will be accepted of Yahuah, and not before. Now you can read this every kind of way you want to read it, you still won't come to the same conclusion. And so for all of you who have allowed people to place that condemnation on you for not keeping the feast days, and you show them this, and you tell them, explain this. Because I will accept you. When I pull you back, I'm going to go back to 40. I think it's that important. Look what it says. For in my holy mountain, and we're not in this holy mountain, in the mountain in the height of Yashar'el, and we're not in Yashar'el, says Yahuah, there all of Yashar'el, mean all of the people, all of the house of Yashar'el, mean all of us, the 1/10, all of them in that land shall serve me. There, in that place will I accept them. And there, in that place will I require of them offerings, the first fruit of their obligation with all of your holy things. There will I accept you with your sweet Savior, when I bring you out from the people and gather you out of the countries wherein you were scattered, and I will be sanctified in you before the heathens. And you shall know that I am Yahuah when I bring you into the land of Yashar'el, into the country for which I have lifted up my hand to give it to your fathers. And there you shall remember your ways. Not here. Not now. So don't let anybody put any more condemnation on you about feast days and Passovers and all of those things. Not while we're in captivity. When Yah said he gathers us all together, then he's going to accept those sacrifices and those offerings from us. Because at that point, we would have understood the condemnation. We would have understood all of the things that were abominable before him. And practicing his law, statutes, and commandments. Verse 44. And you shall know that I am Yahuah when I have wrought with you when I have fought or wrought with you for my name's sake, not according to your wicked ways, nor according to your corrupt doings, for the house of Yashar'el, says Yahuah. So I'm not going to put my name on you because of your wickedness and your sorcery and your idolatry. No. It's when you look at yourself and you look at those abominable behaviors and you detest them and you walk away from them. Then will I identify with you. And you will identify with me. And all the heathens will see it. And they're all going to respect your land. No longer will you be under their foot. They'll be under your foot, our feet. Moreover, the word of Yahuah came to me, saying, Son of Adam, set your face towards the south, and then drop your word to the north, and prophesy against the forest of the field of Negev, and say unto the forest of Negev, hear the word of Yahuah. Thus says Yahuah, behold, I will kindle fire in you. Hallelujah. And that's that fire, there's two fires. There's a fire of damnation, and then there's a fire of purification. The question is, what fire you got? And it shall devour every green tree, all that idolatry, and every dry tree. And the flaming fire shall not be quenched, and all the faces from the south to the north shall be burned therein. Ezekiel 14 and 13 talks about the eyes melting, tongue melting. Y'all say, I'm going to purify it with the fire. So it's coming. It's coming. But if you're the 1/10, the obedient, if you're an elder who is teaching the Torah, if you are an Israelite who are obeying those teachings, if you're an elder that is judging Yashar'el justly, then Yah said, no, you don't have to worry about no fire. I'm going to gather you, though. I'm going to bring you into a wilderness. I'm going to bring you into a protected place all together, not singular, scattered still. Bring you all together, and then I'm going to plead for you right there. I'm going to protect you. Now I'm going to fight for you right there. As they come around, that's what Joel talked about. Joel chapter 3. He said, and all flesh shall see that I'm Yahuah have kindled it, and it shall not be quenched. Then said I, Yahuah, then said I'm done. They say to me, does not he speak parables? He's saying, am I not clear? They're like, well, we hope he's talking in riddles. He said, I'm not talking riddles. I'm being crystal clear. And again, he said that if we don't judge, he said, go back over to the book of Exodus, the Torah. He said that there will be judges. You go back to the beginning of Ezekiel. He said, you elders, you have not judged the people. Exodus 18 talks about that, right? Chapter 22, judging over 50s. So, okay, let's go over there real quick. We're done. Hallelujah, we're done. But I just want to bring it home. Nice and clean. All right, they were saying, in where we begin. Hallelujah. Look at this, brothers and sisters. Exodus chapter 18. I'm starting at verse 20. It says this. And you shall teach the ordinance of the Torah, and you shall show them the way wherein they must walk and must work, that they must do, and the work that they must do. So this anybody talking about the Torah can't be kept. If the Torah can't be kept, why is he saying it can be taught? If the Torah cannot be kept, then why is Yahuah saying it can be taught, brothers and sisters? Let's not be simple-minded here. Why, if it can't be kept, then why is he saying it can be taught? Let me go on. He says, look what he says here. Moreover, you shall provide for all the people able men, such as fear Yahuah, men of truth, having hating covetousness. In other words, they're not materialistic. And place over them, place such men over my people to be rulers over the thousands, rulers over the hundreds, rulers over the fifties, and rulers over the tens. And let them judge the people at all seasons. And it shall be that every great matter they shall bring unto you, Moses, but every small matter they shall judge amongst themselves, so it shall be easy for yourself that you shall bear the burden, that they shall bear the burden with you, able men, like-minded men, some over tens, all the way up to the thousands. And you shall do this thing, and Elohim command you so, that you shall be able to endure, and all these people shall also go into their place in peace. So Moses hearkened to the voice of the father-in-law, and he did all that he said. And Moses chose able men out of Yashar'el and made them heads over the people, rulers over the thousands, rulers over the hundreds, rulers over the fifties, and rulers over the 10. And they judged the people at all seasons. The hard causes they brought unto Moses, but every small matter they judged themselves. Now this is Yah's commandment. This is Yah's approval, judging the people. And this is why the folk in Ezekiel in chapter 1, when they came to inquire of Yahuah, I'm going back to Ezekiel chapter 20. Look what he said. I'm going to go right back. In Ezekiel chapter 20, look what it says, brothers and sisters. Verse 3. And the sons of Adam, he said, son of Adam, speak unto the elders of Israel, and say unto them, thus says Yahuah, are you come to inquire of me? As I live, says Yahuah, I will not be inquired by you. Will you judge them, son of Adam? Will you judge them? Cause them to know the abominations of their fathers? And said to them, thus says Yahuah, in that day when I have chose Israel, and lifted up my hand unto the seed of Jacob, and made myself known to them in the land of Egypt, when I have lifted up my hand to them, I am Yahuah. He's saying, have you judged the people yet, elders? Are you telling them about the abominations that are clearly specified in the Torah, elders? Because he said, otherwise, I ain't trying to hear what you have to say. And at the end of this message, because that's all I have to say. Other than, again, we had a deep, in-depth study last night with many precepts that go along with chapter 20. And again, if you want those precepts, all you have to do is send your email, and I'll make sure you get those precepts. Nothing to hide here. Line upon line, precept on precept. All for the strengthening of our people. But let's put away this backbiting, brothers and sisters, this attacking each other. The heathens love it. They laugh at us. They make mockery of it. They mock us for it. And we play right into it because we're not attending to one another as Yah has instructed us to, because we're not judging what is right and judging what is considered unjust or unclean. And we're so caught up in festivities and feast days, and we're forgetting the most important thing, and that is justice and judging, as Amos said in chapter 5, verse 21 through 24. Y'all say, I don't care nothing about those sacrifices because you can't do them anyway. If you go read the book of Exodus chapter 20 and verse 25, look at this real quick, brothers, so to show you just how precise Yah is. And this is why he's telling us about, don't listen to these folk talking about the lamb you got to eat and all that stuff. Look what he's saying, because here's what. Look at Exodus 20. In Exodus 26, from 1 through 26, is where he talks about thou shalt not kill. These are where you're going to find the so-called, the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Honor your mother and your father. But he comes down here. Look at verse 25. Exodus 20 and 25. He said, if you make an altar. And now we're in the wilderness where we could have done that because Moses was over us in the wilderness. But you're in the land of these heathen. Now you're talking about Bush. Not Bush, but Biden and Trump and wherever you are around this earth. It could be Putin. It could be Ying. It could be Ung. It could be Basero. Whoever's over that land. Whoever they call prime minister or president or whoever, big country, small country, does not matter. It's only when we under the guidance and the leadership of Yashar'el that these commandments in regards to the sacrifices are relevant. Because look what he says here. If you will make an altar of stone, you shall not build it out of hew stone. For if you lift up your tool upon it, you have polluted it. Yah is saying he's so particular, brothers and sisters. He said if you're going to build an altar, there's a certain kind of stone you have to use. Otherwise, it's polluted. So think about how many hands are touching all of these things that they're celebrating or they're using or they're eating on their so-called, Passovers and other, festivals. And that's why Yah is saying only when we get back to our land will I require those things. But as it relates to the Shabbat, no. That's required forever. All right? So that was the quick version. Still took me an hour. But don't forget, stop, there in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 20, I want to say it's around somewhere between verses 40 to 56, 58. They say we would be a proverb and a byword. You know what that means? That means we'd be ridiculed by all the heathen nations, talked about, despised, called names. And if we're not careful, brothers and sisters, if we're not careful, we're going to see some people that we love very much get destroyed because of what we're saying. Things that came out of your mouth. Do you realize that as this thing starts to get closer to the end, that you're going to be the target again? Remember, who was it? David said in Psalm 53. Let me give you an example of what he said. He said these were going to be the people we're going to have to be dealing with. He said they were going to surround us, round and about. I have that in my notes. I think I do. If I don't, if you're on the Zoom call with us Friday night, I'll definitely bring it up then. Yeah, here they go. These are some of the nations. He said, in Psalms 83, when he talk about those nations, that's Edom, that's Europe, that's Saudi Arabia, that's China, that's Africa, that's Japan, that's the Middle East, all those, like Turkey and all of those countries, and Africa. Those are those countries that he mentioned. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All of them what? Target against Yashar'el, that we be destroyed. And we are playing right into it when we play the dozens with each other. Y'all know the dozens. Men talking about the women talking about the men. Hating on each other instead of loving on each other. Yeah, call out wickedness. Chastise, correct. That's what we're here to do. Judge. Judge based off a righteous judgment, Yah's Torah. Call it out. Who Yah loves, he chastises it. But don't get caught up in name calling for the sake of. The heathens want you to do that. They find a certain amount of pleasure when they go around saying, they talk about police brutality and, police killing them, but look how they kill themselves. They love that. They women talking about they need to be protected, but look at them. They ain't nothing but a bunch of whores. They love that. Although the daughters of Zion are not a bunch of whores. Are there whores among us? You better believe it. But that don't fit all of our sisters. So when we make holistic statement about no good black men or no good black women, we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We got to stop that. All of us are not idolaters. All of us are not wicked. But far too many of us are. And nobody will say anything about it. So join me in saying something about it. But more importantly, join me in doing something about it. Okay, brothers and sisters? All right. And by the way, y'all might be saying, what did that show? That's an Under Armour. This is, a steer, a cow. Clean animal. We eat cows, beef. All right. That's a steer. Okay. It's a cow head. Folks always talking about what his brother got on. Okay. It's a steer. It's a skull of a cow. A male cow. All right. That being said, brothers and sisters, thank you for your time. Don't forget to, for you brothers and sisters who have a little something extra to share with your brother. It'd be much appreciated. There's a Cash App over there. You got the P.O. Box too. You can find that in the information section of this this channel, okay? Anything that you can do, help. Doesn't matter how small. It's all appreciated. And I know Yah will bless you for it. All right? That being said, talk to our brothers and sisters soon. Yahuah, Shalom, Israel. Y'all coming soon. Let's get ready.